Hello there, folks. Hope you're doing well. I'd like to talk to you for a minute about the philosophy of motivation statement that you have to come up with. And I want to demystify it just a little bit. In front of you, you can see this document, and it's one of those things that I have in the course as an example. Pardon me, as an example. And it's about generally a teaching philosophy statement. Of course, a philosophy of motivation, you can argue, is part of what should be included in full articulation of your teaching philosophy. So let's just talk a little bit about generally a teaching philosophy statement. Um, and I wanted to go down to this section here, Stephen Brookfield. And if you haven't read this book, I really suggest you read it. It's an excellent book. I'll read it to you. Stephen Brookfield points out that the development of a teaching philosophy can be used for several purposes: personal purpose, a distinctive organizing vision, a clear picture of why you are doing what you're doing, that you can call up at points of crisis, is crucial to your personal sanity and morale. Now, this is one of the reasons I want you to write your philosophy of motivation, so that you can defend yourself if people criticize you about your practice, especially about your practice regarding creating active learning, creating engagement, creating a motivating and positive learning environment. If you have thought about and articulated your philosophy of motivation, what kind of theories you adhere to, and if you align your practice, in other words, what you do as an instructor and what you have students do with your philosophy of motivation, then that's going to help you personally, emotionally, psychologically, and it also will help you defend yourself against critics. Second thing, pedagogical purpose. Teaching is about making some kind of dent in the world so that the world is different than it was before you practiced your craft. Knowing clearly what kind of dent you want to make in the world means that you must continually ask yourself the most fundamental question, evaluative questions of all. What effect am I having on students and on their learning? So this is a key thing to ask yourself regarding motivation. What am I trying to create in students? Do I want obedient students? Do I want students who will line up on the Lionsgate Bridge obediently at 8 o'clock every morning? Do I want students who follow their passion so that they can add to the knowledge and the artistic sort of artistic storehouse, if you will, of the world? So if you have to figure that out, you have to think about that. Last thing, these people in their study identify another purpose. In preparing a statement of teaching philosophy, professors assess and examine themselves to articulate the goals they wish to achieve in teaching. A clear vision of teaching philosophy provides stability, continuity, and long-term guidance. A well-defined philosophy can help them remain focused on their teaching goals and to appreciate the personal and professional rewards of teaching. So that's sort of the high level. It's a defense statement. It helps you remain sane. It also helps you to be very clear on why you're doing what you're doing and ensure that whatever you're doing as far as instruction goes or what you're getting your students to do is aligned with your philosophy. So that's what I want you to think about. That's what I want you to do. So here's a couple of points about a teaching philosophy that I want you to apply to your philosophy of motivation. 1 to 2 pages at the most. Okay? Present tense. It's about you. It's about how you feel. Avoid technical terms and jargon. Okay? Own your philosophy. Use of declarative statements such as students don't learn through lecture, or the only way to teach is to use class discussion. Could be potentially detrimental if you're submitting this document to a search committee. You do not want to appear as if you have all the answers, and you don't want to offend your readers. By writing about your experiences and your beliefs, you own those statements and appear more open to new and different ideas about teaching. So even when you're talking about your philosophy of motivation, talk about it as you personally. This is what your beliefs are. Hopefully, during this course, you'll change in some of your beliefs. Okay, so what's the last part? It's important here that you talk a little bit in your philosophy about how you implement some of your ideas of motivation. So if you are very concerned about self-actualization in students, as part of a motivational strategy, then how would you go about teaching to that end? And what would you get your students to do to that end? Okay, so let's get out of here now. And go back in here into the course. And this is where we are here, developing your philosophy statement, creating arguments and thesis statements. Now, this is another document that I think might be helpful to you. And some of it may be a little beside the point. If you haven't had any experience developing a thesis, all a thesis is, well, that's what they say. A thesis statement tells the reader how you will interpret the significance of the subject matter under discussion. It's a roadmap for the paper. It makes a claim that others might dispute, usually a single sentence. So you have to develop a thesis or a coherent idea of what motivation means to you. Okay? That's part of it. You can read through that. The second part is developing an argument to that end. So if you're making a statement that I believe that behaviorism is the best way to go to motivate students, because students are mean, brutish, and lazy, and they must be motivated through behavioristic Pavlovian techniques. I'm sort of making fun here, but if that's what you believe, then you have to develop an argument to that end. You make the claim, and then you provide evidence for that claim. So I believe this, and here's some research that shows me to be correct in my belief. You may also want to talk about, well, here's what my belief is, and here's the evidence that I show to prove it, but there are some other people who believe other things. This is their argument, and this is how I would refute that counter-argument. So there's some ideas, okay, for creating your philosophy of motivation statement. All right. I hope that's helped to clear it up a little bit. And if there's anything that you need to talk to me about, please let me know, because this may be a little bit of a tough assignment for you, just to get your head wrapped around it. But don't overcomplicate it. Basically, what are your beliefs? What research have you done? Has that research changed your beliefs? What are your researched beliefs? State those clearly. State arguments for why you should believe that, why everybody else should believe that, in the form of what research can you cite. Maybe talk about a little bit of the other ways to look at things, and then show how your way is better, and then conclude it in 1 or 2 pages. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions. All right, thanks. I'll talk to you soon.